Oh, yeah. Welcome out once again. This is no other than the Remix Morning Show. And I go by the name of the Ear Doctor in case you didn't know. And this is that boom bap breakfast right here on Black Liberation Media. Now, I can't do this by myself. And I need the wealth for my sisters right here on Women's Wednesday. Let's give it up for Jackie Lukeman and Erica Kane. It's your birthday. It's your birthday. No, it ain't no birthday. But
I was about to say, what? Who?
No, fortunately, we are blessed to have no Virgos on this platform.
Thank God for that. Ooh.
Wait, all my friends are Virgos.
That explains so much.
I was going to say, that's why you're so intense.
Now I understand some of this.
They keep you on point. I ain't gonna front. You know, it's a
Like
nice. Hey, that's what we both do, huh?
I don't know.
I heard.
I don't know what's worse, having a bunch of Virgos or having a bunch of freaky Geminis running around. I don't.
Freaky Geminis. I had a freaky Gemini.
See.
Anyway. how is the how? Let's you know how it started. How are you doing, Ricky? AKA Erica Kane. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's the same. It's a lot. Ryan is my name though. That is my middle name from Ryan's Hope. For soap opera fans from back in the day.
Yeah, that's been.
Ryan's Hope.
Yeah,
that was a soap opera.
Yeah,
right.
Yep. It was. I mean, that was like one of the originals. Shit.
ABC. So
for real.
This weekend was good. I got to be in New York with BAP NYC. So I gave a presentation for a training for BAP NYC. So that was dope. I got to chill with Cloud and Imani and LJ. LJ came all the way down to the valley. We went out to. So I'm from New York. And my mother and myself, we like to call ourselves Midtown darlings because we always stayed in Midtown from 28th to 59th. I know. It is now a Koreatown on 32nd Street that people are trying to convince me have always been there. Like I worked at Herald Square for 6 years. That ain't never been there. I just put that there a couple of years ago. It's like the chopped cheese thing. They're like, oh, it's always been a chopped chease in New York. No, there has not.
New York is not chopped cheese territory.
Yeah, it is.
No.
Yeah, that's what they call it, but it's not. I wouldn't get a cheese.
It ain't old like she's saying though.
Yeah, it's not old.
Yeah, no, that's unfortunately that's very Jersey.
Yeah, like Philly cheesesteaks.
New Yorkers are trying to convince me that Koreatown been there for forever, and no, it has not. But it's dope. It's booming on 32nd Street now. They got karate and fried chicken and beer. That's all I need.
Karate, fried chicken, and beer.
So you go to Philly for the cheese steak, you go to New York for the chopped cheese, and you go to Jersey for the pizza. I'm just saying.
No, no. I would never go to
all the Italians in Jersey. Get out! Come on, forget about it.
I'm not even a pizza purist, but
Yeah.
No,
my Jersey has in the chat room. Holla at her. Let them know.
Or don't.
No, I do have to say one of the best plain cheese pizzas I've ever had. What was in Jersey? It was in Camden. Yeah. When I was dating Abdus, he swore up and down, "This is the best. Is the best pizza outside of New York."
That's New Haven, though. New Haven, Connecticut is right there. And you want to tell me New Haven?
Why did you even bring up Connecticut?
Because we talk about the tri-state. If we're gonna say outside New York,
no, we're not. They don't even. I don't even know how they made it again.
I don't think it's necessary to claim New Haven. Do you?
It's not necessary to claim Connecticut.
I eat New Haven before y'all try to convince me Jersey.
I just said I had one delicious
one slice in that
experience.
one spot on that one street.
Jersey got that pizza on smash.
That's true. and it's not there anymore because it was in the middle of
cloud about Jersey. That's biased.
Yeah. Hey, listen, know what I'm saying. Yo, so Jackie, you been on the road again? What's been going on?
Yeah. So man, it's been a really wild couple of weeks to see things play out the way they have. To see Jill and Butch go on the Breakfast Club and just
was you there?
No, because I work on the campaign. It is a conflict of interest for me to be involved in any of the the interviews and stuff. We have the team has meetings. We talk about messaging and all that kind of stuff. But the road team has been focusing on like organizing on the road and connecting with communities of our people on the road. So that's what we've been doing. We got a huge thing that I'm so excited about on the 21st in Seattle, not the 21st in Seattle, in Seattle Friday, which I hope I'm going to be able to at least do a video about. And then we're working on some other stuff, but it is just to kind of see how the media narratives around politics kind of work, and how it's really different from the way the Democrats, they basically tell the media what to say. But when you're another candidate, you have to take the attention that you get. And it's because mostly media doesn't pay any attention to third-party candidates. So it's really interesting that the Greens are getting a lot of media attention now. And partially it's because of so many more people are like, what? There's a third party with policies that don't support genocide. Oh, let's look at that. But also because they went on this show that is so popular in the Black community, and they did what they did, and I thought it was great, and it's very, very interesting. But
how do you like being part of the wasted vote crew?
Well, like I said, it's like I don't. It's crazy the kinds of things people come up with to try to make people feel bad for not supporting their shitty politicians. It's like, what do you mean it's a wasted vote? It doesn't disappear. It doesn't dissolve into the ether when you turn around. It doesn't, not get counted unless somebody working in the, actually doesn't. But it's a vote for a candidate that you want. And like I like to think of, if people are still going to vote, and I always have to say that, listen, I'm not in this because I've suddenly turned into this vote or die advocate. Look, man, voting is a tool. Electoral politics in this country are what they are. And if you really want to get a clear understanding, go back and read W.E.B. Du Bois's I Won't Vote from 1956. And he was saying then the exact same things we are facing now, with the Republican and the Democratic parties being very close to each other, very similar, two wings of the same evil bird. And he also scathingly critiques how both parties subvert third parties. This was in 1956. Every election, I bring this up. And it's just really interesting to see how it plays out kind of from the inside. And I just kind of feel like, well, if people are still going to vote, then at least I should be, if I have the opportunity to do it, give our people the information that they don't have, because they don't think that they do think their vote is a wasted vote if they don't vote for Democrats to stop Republicans, right? But most of it is people don't know much about the Green Party. The Green Party has not been very organized. That's true. But I was given the opportunity to make an improvement somewhere, to kind of see if we could put this information in front of our people and what they would do, how they would respond to it. And that's what I'm doing. And it is really, really interesting to see how deeply the misinformation and the control of the Democratic Party goes, not just to keep people like married to the Democratic Party, but to keep a lot of people ignorant of the fact that they do have options. And no, it's not a wasted vote if you vote for somebody else. No, Donald Trump is not automatically going to win if he doesn't get your vote. None of that stuff is true. None of it.
Ricky, would you get in politics in your town?
I'm already in politics.
I mean,
it's all politics.
I mean, you right. I mean, as in like, what is it? Councilwoman or?
Would I do that? No. But I am a member of a Black workers centered political party here in Maryland, Ujima People's Progress Party. So, but it's not. It doesn't function like the Green Party. It doesn't function like the Workers' Families Party. It is legitimately a tool for agitation. So we want to get on the ballot, but the point of getting on the ballot and the point of getting on the debate stage is so that what Jill and Butch just did on the Breakfast Club, we'll be able to do that to a wider audience. Because if you're not on the ballot, you cannot get on that debate stage if you do not have a certain amount of people that are backing you. Like if you don't have the numbers, they're not putting you on that debate stage. If you can't get on that debate stage, you can't sort of circumvent what's being said by both parties, right? About policing or housing or these things, when you know that you're coming from a workers' base background with a whole workers movement attached to it that could speak to other workers. So when we're cut off from that, then it becomes, how do we get into those spaces? So I can appreciate what Jill and Butch did with the Breakfast Club, because that is the idea of using that to kind of get on a stage, on a broader stage, so that you can raise these issues that are absolutely not discussed. Like they're not saying genocide on the Breakfast Club, clearly. And that's probably the first time they've said the word genocide in relation to Israel on that show, right? So in order to get on those stages and interrupt the duopoly, we do have to become, we do have to push for ballot initiatives and things like that. But that's not the goal. The goal is community control. The goal is political power, people-centered human rights. But how do we get there is the vehicle that we're using the third party for. So that way, when we do the door knocking and we're asking for ballot signatures, or we're asking people to sign the ballot and support Ujima, that we're also giving this pitch. Hey, did you know? Are you aware of? You know that you can also join Ujima and you can also advocate for yourself. So it's that kind of thing.
So you got to play the Nubian horse to get up in there. I see it.
That's what you.
Not the Trojan horse, the Nubian horse.
Why are we putting the blanket of duplicity on the Nubians? Why?
I mean, we don't want to call her Trojans. I mean, the whole idea of getting in there a certain way, playing a certain role, and then bam, this is who we are. You know what I'm saying?
Nubian
horse. Okay, y'all can use that. Y'all can all use it.
Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone. Okay. All right.
Probably won't.
A little bit of IP. Give me my IP percentage. That's all. Yo, so we got a dope show. We got a whole lot of news going on. A lot of things going on. We got a guest, I believe, also.
We should.
At 9. Yeah, we got a guest coming at 9. Who we got coming at 9? We gonna say it?
Yes, it's an organizer comrade from the continent. Okay. They're gonna come on here and talk about Nigeria, and then the new Burkina books in Niger as well.
Nice. All right, we got some more hosts and crew coming through. So listen, man, y'all gotta stick around. This is that Boom Bap breakfast y'all really needing for your diet. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a quick break and come back with some more right here on No Other Than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Scholar Rock had them all. He is super. Yo, big up, y'all. Welcome out. This is the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and thank y'all for tuning in. Hit hit that like button while you're here. You know what I'm saying? Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Also, go to patreon.com, become a member over there, and get footage that's rare. And yes, you can go to our website and donate so we can elevate. There you go. blkliberationmedia.org. That is where you should go. If you want to check out the show and you want to show some love, since we are demonetized, this is the only way we're going to be able to do it over here and pay these bills. So thank you all very much for doing that. All right, with that said, I wanted to show a little love to an artist. What artist am I talking about? Well, you hear the music in the background. Actually, it's one of the first big hip-hop artists that got killed. I do a violence prevention class at middle school and stuff like that, so I was able to go over the different rappers and stuff that got shot. But this was the first one in hip-hop back in 1987 that really affected a lot of us, and we was like, yo, not Scott LaRock, but he's also known as Scott Monroe Sterling. Yeah, and he's straight from Queens, but he moved to the Bronx, and then he hooked up with the one called KRS-One, and they formed Boogie Down Production, also with D Nice. So a lot of people don't know, D Nice was also part of the Boogie Down Production from the beginning. So what he did is he was working at a what was he working at? Damn, what if I forget? All right, boom. So he's working as a social worker, right? So he's working as a social worker, and he met up with KRS-One, who was at a homeless shelter. So they got together. Next thing you know, they pulled in D Nice, and then boom. It started with Criminal Minded back in 1987. Now, what happened is his death, how he died, is D Nice was having a little beef with somebody's, some dude who ex-girlfriend was trying to get with and everything. Next thing you know, he was like, D Nice was like, yo, man, can you come help me handle this? So D Nice got Scott LaRock and the other friend, and they came and went and tried to handle everything. Next thing you know, while they leaving, shots rang out. Bam, bam, bam. And yeah, Scott LaRock got shot, and he was murdered that day. So check out my man Scott LaRock. He has Criminal Minded, By Any Means Necessary, Man in His Music, and Best of B-Boy Records. So big up to that brother, R.I.P. And yo, stop the violence in hip hop. All right, with that said, let's get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Let's go.
We need some flowers.
Yeah. All right.
Wow. I've forgotten about how he died. Dang.
Yeah, trying to help out somebody. D Nice. Wow, D Nice has been in the business for a minute, and really with the COVID thing, really brought him back out on the DJing tip, because he had a whole album, production, rapping. I mean, he did every element of hip hop, to graffiti and everything. So big up to the whole crew. That's what it is. All right, I had a real quick question. I seen this right here. My homegirl April sent me this, right? And I was wondering how y'all would react if y'all was in this situation. Check this out.
You support Hamas, don't you? You support UNRWA and Hamas, don't you?
Sir,
Please.
I think it's exceptionally disappointing that you're looking at an Arab American witness before you and saying you support Hamas.
You know what's disappointing to me?
I do not
You
support
can't
Hamas.
Bring yourself
I do
to
not
say
support Hamas
You don't
or
support UNRWA. You don't support Hamas. You don't.
I was very clear in my support for UNRWA.
Hezbollah, and you don't
I
support
oppose-
Iran. You should hide your head in a bag.
Damn. I would have loved to see your reaction.
Right, that's the day I was going to the feds.
I'm serious.
Jackie started taking her earrings off.
That would have been like, excuse me.
That's the day.
Excuse me. Yes, could you please call security? Just go ahead, because I'm jumping over this table right
Wow.
now. No, see, me? You support the Klan, don't you? You support the Klan, don't you? Don't you? It's like, come on. So, so you're insulted when I say to you that you support the Klan, but I'm just supposed to sit here and take it. Take you being a racist bigot, a racist pig, a disgusting cracker to Strom Thurmond Jr. Shut up.
I'm just wondering, like, what is the order in the courtroom that he's allowed to say certain things to her? And then also, is UNRWA now being conflated with Hamas? Because UNRWA is the UN.
Right. Right.
So now we say the UN is being run by Hamas.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and Hezbollah.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Iran.
Yeah. But also, I wouldn't be in that position anyway, because I do support Hamas. I do not condemn Hamas. Because I think what we noticed too is that sort of liberal reaction, right? Her whole issue primarily was the racism about looking at an Arab American and saying, well, clearly you're a terrorist, right? But her response to that is, no, I'm not them.
Right.
Don't confuse me with them because I'm an Arab. Those are other people I do not support, right?
Right.
Which I think is a problem in itself, right? Because it conflates exactly what is happening and why that resistance movement exists today. And then it also, I think she does the work of also helping sort of collapse UNRWA into Hamas. So
I thought I'd just throw that log in the fire. Let me get out of here. Let y'all heat it up.
I got a story.
Oh, what is it? Oh, wait. Do we do the thing? Where's our Windows 95?
Where the Afro beats at? Producer.
What, sir? Can we get our news thing?
Peace, 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 peace. It is Wednesday, Women's Wednesday. Wow, a real Women's Wednesday. No, come out.
Yeah, it's not Women's Wednesday and come out and watch he pop up.
It's September 18th. I'm Erica Keynes, aka Ricky Ryan. I'm here with my comrade Jackie Lukeman. We got Ear Doctor in the back. Ready to start our day. Ear Doctor, I got the story about the Israel and the African migrants. Yeah, so apparently Israel, the IOF needs some more help. They are running out of soldiers. So they are recruiting primarily from Africa, and they're also exploiting African asylum seekers for military manpower in Gaza. If you want to scroll down, I can read a bit of it. And this is on the Cradle, which is one of my favorite sources. The Israeli military is recruiting African asylum seekers who join the army to fight in Gaza by promising them assistance in obtaining permanent residency status in Israel. Haaretz reported on 15th of September. Defense officials speaking off the record to the liberal Israeli newspaper said the project is conducted in an organized manner with the guidance of defense establishment's legal advisors. After the start of Israel's war on Gaza on October 7th, defense officials realized that they could use the help of the asylum seekers and exploit their desire to obtain permanent status in Israel as an incentive. However, Israeli officials have not granted permanent status to any asylum seekers who have volunteered for combat in Gaza so far and refuse to say exactly how the new recruits are used. It says, quote, no asylum seekers who contributed to the war effort have been granted official status, and quote, Haaretz wrote, despite risking their lives, while the manner in which the Israeli army deploys the asylum seekers is barred from publication. So I can stop there. We actually don't know how many asylum seekers have been enlisted or recruited and what they're being used for, where they're at. But we know that the census that they were promised, they're not getting. So they were told that they would be permanent residents. And we know a lot of these Africans are coming from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Sudan currently. There are approximately 45,000 African asylum seekers living in Israel today. And Many of them crossed the Sinai Desert between 2005 and 2012, seeking refuge. So these are not refugees that are entering Israel right now or in the last couple years per se. These are refugees that have been there, that have been trying to attain permanent status, and Israel, knowing that, they're using that to exploit and have them sign up. But instead of finding safety, they've been forced into low-wage jobs. So their exploitation is on a mass scale. They get the low-wage jobs. They obviously are mistreated. They do have to enlist like everyone else. And that the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society reports that most of the low-wage workers are young men facing the added pressure now of being targeted by military. So they're saying this exploitation is not a new phenomenon. This reflects Israel's historical and ongoing relationship with the African world. Israel has actively, for decades, participated in the destabilization, exploitation of African nations. We could talk about the Congo for one, right? There's sanctions on that man who has that diamond company that's been exploiting. So they're often using quote unquote humanitarian aid or security assistance as a guise. We know that they're trying to enter into the African Union. So yeah, that's just basically the relationship. But then moreover, Israel's anti-blackness, right? If we want to talk about that, if we want to make that a deal, right? Because we're talking about
in its proper context, right?
We're talking about the Palestinians. Israel has been explicitly racist towards African refugees. And like I said, this has been something that's been occurring, the influx of African refugees between 2005 and 2012. But in 2012, I don't know if folks remember, Israel politicians openly referred to asylum seekers as infiltrators and cancer. There's been violent anti-Black protests in Tel Aviv. They've been physically attacked, killed even. Just a hyper deep-seated racism towards Africans in Tel Aviv, in Israel. And these sentiments persist today, where they're marginalized, denied basic rights. They don't have the same rights as anybody else in that. And they don't even really have the rights as the lowest of the Palestinians in Israel. They're now pressured to fight in this conflict. So this is the current practice we're seeing, but it's reflecting a more broader history of Israel's relationship with Africa and the African world. And it underscores how their policies remain steeped in a sort of hierarchy of dehumanization that exploits not just the Palestinian people, but Africans as well. So for all of the why should we care, that's another example.
That's it. Because even if people don't understand how the Zionist apartheid entity was created, that everything they've said about this being their land is a damn lie, and even okay, fine, but people need to understand the very white supremacist nature of Israel, because even at the very beginning, they were taking babies away from dark-skinned Jews, Arab Jews, taking their children. If their babies were light enough, they would just steal their kids. This was actually exposed, and in the New York Times, there was a big article in the New York Times. It was reported in Israeli media. So this is not something that we made up. They have been racist. They are racists. They are absolutely very much a part of the Pan-European project, and they want to be. Right? These are not the original Hebrews from that region. That's not these people. These are European Jews from Europe and from New York, most of them. So these are not. So I mean, these are the people whose government secretly sterilized Ethiopian women, that they made such a big deal about bringing over in that airlift in the 80s. Remember when they went to, I think that was Sudan. Yeah, I think that was Sudan when they airlifted in the mid 80s. All of the Ethiopian no, it was Ethiopia. It was all the Ethiopian Jews during the famine, and those people got to Israel, and they secretly and forcibly sterilized the Ethiopian women, because they want to maintain a European Jewish majority, not just Jewish majority, remember, because there are Palestinian Jews, there are African, obviously they brought all those African Hebrews over. So it's not just that Israel, the government, has to maintain a Jewish majority. It is a white Jewish majority, because they oppress the Orthodox Jews who are opposed to Zionism. They are treated brutally, right along with the Palestinians, and what they're doing to African Jews. So we need to understand the nature and the character of Israel, and understand that if those people are the enemy of Africans and those people are oppressing Palestinians, how are Palestinians not our concern again? When the enemy of our people is also oppressing another group of people? No, the enemy of my enemy the enemy of my friend is my enemy. Period. Period.
And when you think about what was happening in Africa between 2005 and 2012, like the fact that there is so many Eritrean migrants in Israel is not by happenstance. Like the U.S. and how it has approached East Africa primarily in those specific years, because Libya was 2011. But there was always that conflict with Ethiopia and Eritrea that the U.S. has embedded itself in. Sudan was split during that time. And these are the people, the refugees who are entering into Israel. And then again, there are Africans in Israel as refugees who believe in that project.
Yeah.
Who believe in the Zionist project, right? But that is a level of conditioning. And that's when we have to understand this is what, because, there are Palestinians who are living in Israel who may, they're not Zionists, surely, but they're not trying to rock no boat either.
Right.
They're content with their situation. They don't want to rock the boat because they don't know what that would mean for them. So yes, we will always see these dynamics, these reactionary dynamics play out in different sects of people, in these different cultures, in these different groups, right? But that is not to say that there is not a point of clarity that needs to be made. Just because we're watching, and then Israel does that. I mean, that's propaganda work for Israel, that they would highlight the Ethiopian Jews that are full support, like the reporter who signed the bombs that were going to Gaza, right? That she was so happy to do it. That's an Ethiopian that did that, right? So of course they would highlight those things and say these people believe in the project and they stand with Israel. But you also have to understand that those are few in comparison to the ones who are exploited and mistreated. They're by the thousands. So to see the one or two say, oh, we love it, especially on TikTok, they have TikToks, those Ethiopian Jews in Israel. They're making TikToks that they don't understand what's our problem, why we don't understand the dirty Palestinians, et cetera, et cetera. Because that's a language that they have been indoctrinated with. This is not of them. They don't know that. The history that they know is the history that they have been given through Israel, because that's where they're living. They're not living in Gaza. They didn't come and then stay in Gaza. They came and stayed in Israel. So the education that they're getting, is coming from there. So everything that they're hearing is a product of that, even in spite of how they're getting treated. And we see that with our own people here. Look at how they are like to the hip with Kamala, in spite of everything. In spite of everything, right? Because that's the indoctrination. That is the conditioning. You could see it all in your face and still see like, okay, but. So that there are ways that we, across all sects, are coming in, making certain decisions and making certain choices. But that does not take away from the grander and broader contradiction of settler colonialism and imperialism that we're all under, right? Which is why the Ethiopians and Eritreans and Sudanese can be exploited, which is why there's genocide in Palestine, which is why we're at war here domestically.
Yep. And then people very often, when talking about these issues of other people, being oppressed under imperialism that emanates from this piece, because that is what we're, the imperialism and the settler colonialism. We need to keep hammering home the fact that Israel is a U.S. project. Israel is the proxy state of the United States in the Middle East. Joe Biden said years ago, and he meant that. He meant it. If Israel didn't exist, we'd have to create one. Now, it's not as if the U.S. didn't create Israel, because they did. They absolutely did. But this isn't like something that people in this country, who are the politicians, who and the media, are propping this evil entity up. It's not like they don't know. They do know. They know exactly what Israel is and what they've been doing. Yes, they know. They're just committed to the project too. But for those of us who, yes, are subjected to the same propaganda and indoctrination about Israel that, Ricky was just talking about, that the Ethiopians have been subjected to in Israel. We've been subjected to the same propaganda just coming out of this government about how Israel is the eternal victim of the dirty Palestinians, trying to defend their own land. You know what I mean? But when then we start to, when it comes to, I can't even describe it. I don't understand how people get to, okay, that's really horrible what they're doing to those Africans over there, to all of a sudden, well, that doesn't have anything to do with me. That's not, that ain't us. So and it doesn't have anything to do with me because Palestinians have anti-blackness. Like, I
And can you imagine, Jackie?
If Afro-Palestinians don't exist.
Right. And could you imagine now, let's say, because that's something that it is not, right? Because if we're learning now that there has been an influx of African asylum seekers that have been made to sign up with the IOF for promises of, but so that means that there's no numbers of how many, right? But let's say that's the case. And you're telling me that these people have no right to be like, fuck them, because they're Black, right? Because they're African. These people have no right to be like, fuck them niggas. Like, because if you're like killing me and my people, like, that's what I'm trying to, like, there's no broader aspect of that, right? Because it's just about, oh no, we are the most wretched of the earth. All the bad things only happen to African people. Only, right? We can never be the surveyors of the badness. We are only the receivers of it. And I think that sort of line is what makes, for me, Afro-pessimism so uniquely dangerous, because it does not require any kind of of stepping back and thinking on a broader level of what we're talking about. How is the whole world anti-Black when Blackness has not touched the whole world? And yes, everybody would like to think that, but like, come on now, you're talking about the people in Tibet just innately racist?
No,
right? And then it also moves away from the history of Asia and the exploitation coming out of Asia, East Asia, South Asia. Because again, it puts us primarily as the only ones to ever have, and that is the way that it's depicted. So that when you point out, all right, well, they also seem to be the oppressors, and how do we also explain neocolonialism and the comprador class?
Right.
I mean, we can't be both victim and fucking villain. It has to be an understanding, but there's no real approaching of that, right? It's just this kind of idea that we are just supposed to accept that we're the wretched of the earth, the whole world is anti-Black, and it's just absolutely nothing we can do about that. And I feel like that is where it gets it becomes an issue, because it does not really allow for a critical thought about the particular dynamics of and material conditions of a situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, let's just place this here and this here and this here, and it applies across the board. And that is not dialectic, and it's unscientific.
Mm-hmm.
And
And
the
it's
other day, those claims are bullshit.
that I mean, that basically that is it. It's not that I think the thing about this the theory of anti-blackness that I really, or anti-pessimism, Afro-pessimism, that I really do not like is that it does seem to provide cover for the comprador class.
It does.
I think it does. It just doesn't. So if the world is anti-black, then how do you explain Lloyd Austin? How do you explain Susan Rice? How do you explain Barack Obama? They're black people who so can you, so how do you frame their continuing the exploitation of black people and the oppression of black and how do you frame that? And then what I saw was people saying, oh, well, that's internalized anti-blackness. And it's like, Jesus Christ, this is not.
It just moves and moves and moves. And also, like, I just want to address something. Somebody in the chat says, why do Asians across the board perpetuate? Across what board? Like, again, this is what I'm saying about how people are having these discussions. Do you understand how, like, what is this even saying? What are we even asking here? Across the board, all Asians. Do you know how big Asia is? You know,
no,
like,
Erica.
oh, Russia's a racist country. Do you know the demographic makeup of Russia? You know how huge Russia is?
Nope, they don't.
To say that, oh yeah, it's just anti-black country.
They
don't know where the black people are in Russia.
They don't know there are black people in Russia.
It's listen. The American public school system reminds us every day about this illiteracy rate, and people get online and they just throw out facts, having read nothing, having studied nothing, have no historical foundation, but they say things matter-of-factly, and that is the issue here. Because when you say things matter-of-factly, like Palestinian people are anti-black, that's an issue.
Yep. And then these are people who, as you're pointing out, Ricky, these are people who don't know any Palestinian people. And you know, people don't even realize that it's not even difficult to know Palestinian people, because since their land has been stolen, a lot of them were forced to leave. So there's an enormous Palestinian community in this country. But somehow the people who are making all of these ridiculous blanket proclamations about how entire populations of other people that they know absolutely nothing about, nothing about other people, that just make these blanket pronouncements about how these other people hate them without knowing other people's struggles, without knowing other people's material conditions, without knowing anything about the history of other people in our engagement with these. Oh my.
I mean, even in the chat, they're still going. Listen.
I know, but this is why.
I just be very clear. I actually do not care. I actually do not care. No. I find Sharice Bernin-Stelli's structural location of blackness to be what you all are trying to push with Afro-pessimism, because what we're trying to understand is, how do we get there? What is the material conditions and the ways dialectically that these things play out? How does our blackness affect or determine the direction that we're going? I think that and how does it determine the history, like the fight back? So I do think I would encourage people to engage the structural location of blackness. But I don't care to be in no debate about Afro-pessimism, because listen, I don't use it. I don't believe in it. It's not a useful thing for what I am doing. And I've seen how it is. I see the attempts to make it play out in outside of this country. And I see how it works, how it is weaponized by the state continuously. So I find no use for it, because, like I said, in Honduras right now, they're pushing Afro-pessimism to get that lady out. They're pushing anti-blackness to get the president out. The Garafinas right now. They pushed that in 2021 for to get to regime change in Cuba. They tried that in Nicaragua. They're trying it everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have to think about if this is something that is useful, you know, things can't be useful for us and the state simultaneously.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Like that, I mean, it's the same thing with ADOS. When we see all the right wingers pick that up and the state pick that up, like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Exactly. At any time. And why is it, Ricky, that what you just said about how anytime the state adopts something, a lot of us are automatically suspicious, even people who are not all that political. Whenever the state picks up on something, a lot of us are like, now it's approved by you. Then I don't know why do we not have that response to this kind of thing? Why do you think that is?
I think that there's a desire and a need to approach things in one particular way. But the intent is not to go back and forth with Afro-pessimism and because again, I don't care what y'all say. I have been in these debates for years. I mean, me and Jared go back and forth about this. You know, my stance is my stance. I don't need it. If y'all feel like y'all need it to make your point, go ahead, have at it. I don't need it to make my point. But what I am trying to say is that when we look at how it's playing out geopolitically, and we look at where Africans are today, there is not a usefulness in that for Pan-Africanism, for Black internationalism, for any of our revolutionary fight, because it does not call for a fight. It is not calling for that. It is called, and also for all of this, it was never meant to be applicable to movement spaces. It is an academia thing. It was supposed to be debated in academia. And it's grad students that took it out of those walls. Grad students who don't organize. Talk about it. So now that it is out here in the ether, people want to apply it all across the board. And that's not how it works. So yes, I'm going to push back. If you think I'm bastardizing it, I mean, listen, Frank Wilderson himself said it wasn't supposed to lead on walls. So it did. And now here we are. And we're seeing the dynamics of it play out. And it has not been useful. In what way have we used it? In what way has it strengthened the movement? Have we come together under that? Because we're watching it play out in ways that were telling us Black internationalism, it does not work because they're anti-Black and they're anti-Black and they're anti-Black. No solidarity. So how does that, when has that been useful? But people can have what they have. I'm a Marxist-Leninist, you know? So I don't listen to nobody who got criticisms about that, you know, if you feel like that doesn't work for you and that's not how you're going to apply it, then don't. I'm not asking everybody to be a Marxist-Leninist. I have never asked anybody to be a Marxist-Leninist. But this whole idea is that I'm supposed to accept Afro-pessimism on its face. It's bonkers to me. There's other frameworks, and I apply those other frameworks. But I am going to have my criticisms of the way that I'm watching this framework work and how I watch it develop in the last 5 years. From people who are not in organizations, from people who do not organize, from people who tweet all damn day, long threads about Afro-pessimism, long threads.
And it's wild to me how we're just supposed to accept this framework of thinking about how the world sees and engages with and responds to us and why, not how, but why they, you know, which isn't a complete analysis, but it's wild how we're just supposed to accept that and run with it. And I don't know what we're supposed to do with it, to your point, Ricky, right? Like, what am I supposed to, what's that? What
also, also, to the point that Marxists have one-sided beef. It's a battle of ideas. Word to Fidel Castro. Okay, it is a battle of ideas. It's not one-sided beef. All right,
no, it's not
a battle of ideas.
Right, but
understand that clearly.
Right, it's the idea that we're supposed to just automatically accept that and wrap everything we do around this idea and theory, and if we don't, then somehow we're I don't know, we're sellouts, or we don't know what we're talking about, whatever. But everything we have been talking about U.S. imperialism, Western hegemony, all of this, us being an internal neo-colony now. Do the Afro-pessimists, do they accept any of that? Nope. They don't. So this isn't even an equal, honest discussion.
Brittany, we cannot say that the world is overwhelmingly anti. Brittany, have you been across the world? You see what I'm saying? We cannot make those kind of generalized statements like that. That in itself is problematic. You have not been across the world. Most people can't. If you show most people a map, they don't know where nothing is, right? But you can say, but I know they anti-black right there, though. We can't make these hard statements like that with no evidence to support it, but hyperbole. Like that's all we have is hyperbole. Mm-hmm. There's no evidence to support that, and that becomes the problem.
Right?
Are people racist? Are people prejudiced? Is there anti-blackness? Yes, I am not denying any of that. What I am saying is, yeah, people who have not stepped outside this country or who had very particular, limited experiences outside this country, then come back and proceed to say this is what it is, because I seen it. I seen it personally.
Mm-hmm. But what I have seen is that where there is a stereotypical, a negatively stereotypical view of Black people in other societies, it is because they have been subjected to the same media, U.S. and Western media shaped propaganda about us through movies and entertainment that we can't stand here, right? Like even if people can't wrap their heads around the fact that, first of all, we are pretty much everywhere. I mean, we're all over the world, so you can find Black folks pretty much everywhere, almost all over the world. And the places where there are not a lot of us, yes, there might be a lack of understanding about us as a people because there may not be a lot of us in this area. But what people do know about us is what they see in the media. And I remember us having these conversations about like BET in the 80s. And in the 90s, when BET eliminated all the news shows, and Bob Johnson specifically and explicitly said, look, if we have to highlight more of these booty shaking videos to make more money, that's what we will do. And there was a big old outcry among Black folks about how BET was changed from a serious news and information outlet for Black folks in this country to like coonery, basically. And the question was raised, how does this make us look to the rest of the world? And we had those conversations for years about BET and the impact BET had on how the rest of the world saw us, particularly the play. And even then, I know that I did not understand that Cuba is African, right? I did not understand then that Venezuela is African, that Nicaragua is African. You understand that the global South is just full of Africans. You know, I did not understand that then, but I understood, and I think a lot of people understood that the way most people around the world see America in general is through the lens of the media that this country pushes out to the rest of the world. So even if the idea of entire societies or entire countries of people are anti-Black, that's not an endemic thing. It's not like they were born and they grew up and it's just in their brain that, no, it is, if that is a thing that people believe is really true, that is the result of U.S. propaganda.
Right.
That's not like an organic kind of all non-African descended people are anti-Black kind of thing. That is just not, because the thing you also realize when you learn a little bit more about the rest of the people in the rest of the world is that other people have a better grasp on the history of the struggle of Africa as a continent and as a people than even we do. Because a lot of other people connect their liberation struggles with the liberation struggles of Africa.
Damn. Tell them why you mad, Ricky.
She tired. She tired.
That's big mad at me in the chat, and I don't give a shit.
Oh, not in the chat. She done jumped out the ring.
No, I'm saying because this is not something. These are discussions that is constant, right? And I've struggled with folks around this, right? But I do think the point that I was making that even led us here is the way that the conversation, like when we're talking about anti-Blackness, who and what it applies to, right? We're not talking about it in the framework of Israel at all, because the larger conversation right now is getting Kamala into office, right? And what is stopping that? What's happened is Palestinian struggle. So now we should ignore what's happening to Palestinians simply because they are anti-Black. And that is how it is being pushed. And that is why I'm questioning what is the utility of this framework if we are being called to ignore it here, but do something about it here. Make noise about it here, but ignore it there. What is the utility of this framework? And nobody can really answer that because they've not used it nowhere. They've never used it nowhere. Like, honestly, there's nobody organizing around anti-Blackness and Afro-pessimism right now. There's no movement around that. There's people talking and having discussions. There's debates. There's threads on Twitter. But there is no Afro-pessimist movement. And the fact that people are trying to apply that to what's happening, these global struggles, because the world is anti-Black, is a problem. So if it's gaslighting, it is what it is. But trying to convince me that Tibetans are concerned about me, my Black ass, because the whole world is anti-Black, is a waste of your time. I'm not trying to convince people to follow my ideology or follow but you're not gonna beat me over the head with things that I'm clear on.
Let me go get my plate because y'all cooking in here. Man. Well, there it is, y'all. This is the Remix Morning Show. In case y'all didn't know, now you do, baby. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick break. I know we got guests coming around in a minute, so let's go do that right here on no other than the Remix Morning Show. Let's go. Remix on the remix.
I'm thinking of no other love can measure.
No other love. Let's go.
No other love. I'm thinking of
mental health break.
No other love can measure.
Remix on the remix. Come on.
Pretty little baby, you have given me good times, and all I wanna do is make it better. I can never tell you that I did love you now, that no other love can compare to you. No other love, no, I'm thinking of, no other love can measure.
Ferrari, retarded, no brain, retarded.
All right, let me take you to a time and place. Let's go back to 1995 with my girl Faith Evans, Jersey Stand Up, off the album Faith Evans. That song is No Other Love, mixed with a little bit of 2014. We talking about the artist named Cash Out off his album Let's Get It. This song is called And She Twerk. And She Twerk.
Smack her on the booty.
Alright, with that said, let's go ahead and get back to it right here on the Remix Morning Show. Make sure y'all hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel. Go to patreon.com, become a member over there, get footage that's rare. And also, donate. Go to blackliberationmedia.org, blkliberationmedia.org. Now let's get back to it, y'all. You know how we do it. All right. Yeah, yeah. You were
The
on
guest
mute.
here?
Excuse me?
Is the guest here yet?
Yes, they are.
All right.
All right. So little R&B and trap sound. You know what I'm saying?
I
We
love that
get
Faith album. I was just
Oh
playing
my
it
goodness.
yesterday.
Really? See, look at that.
Yeah.
I felt the vibration. So that's what it is. I think we Jackie had to take a little break or something. So
Yeah, I just saw.
okay. All right. So what we gonna do is guess we go get ready to bring forth the guests. I'm gonna take a break and let you do your thug thizzle. All right.
All right. Go ahead, producer. A little slide. All right. Peace, 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 everyone. Thank you for joining us on this Wednesday. We have a special guest today. I wanted to bring on Comrade Adebayo of the Movement for African Emancipation. Comrade Adebayo is here to discuss the recent protests in Nigeria. I know we haven't discussed a lot of that. And then also some other news, some exciting news about Burkina Faso and Niger. So yeah, Adebayo, if you want to introduce yourself, talk a little about yourself, and then I can start.
Yeah, am I being loud and clear, please? Yo, my name is Comrade Adebayo. I'm a member of the Movement for African Emancipation, which is a socialist Pan-African organization based in Lagos, Nigeria. And, we've been actively organizing towards development of Africa and also the African continent, and also developing, on issues that are very pivotal to all the oppressed Africans, both home and abroad, on the African continent and everywhere else in the world. So it's a privilege being here today, to be able to discuss, the trending issues happening in Nigeria and also in the African continent, and also, analyzing, how like the factors surrounding it, and also able to explain to people so people can understand the perspectives, and also learn things they don't see in the mainstream media. So
Thank you. So I know Nigeria has recently seen large protests. Could you talk about the policies that are targeted by these protests and the conditions of the masses of the people, and the role neocolonialism perhaps would be pushing or playing in pushing these policies?
what is happening in Nigeria today, have its antecedents, going back to the so-called SAP policies, structural adjustment program, which was being, emanated in Nigeria and was being given by so-called West, called the Bretton Woods agenda. And, the agenda was more about, going towards privatization and also curbing, what do you call it, social welfare. In that way, they try to prioritize, profit ahead of human welfare. So as times goes by, we've seen these so-called policies being enacted in Nigeria, which has actually, led to the issue of inflation in our country. It also left with the issue of insecurity in our country, and also, this policies has made Nigeria become, the capital of poverty, all over the world. And with all these conditions happening in Nigeria, the people are at the receiving end, with the price of goods that have skyrocketed, for over 300%, and people are clamoring that the government should be able to put some initiatives, into play to able to, help the average Nigerians, to survive their daily wood. But what we actually see is just that, the kind of elite that we have in Nigeria, are kind of like profit oriented, and they only care for their own personal gain. They don't care about people welfare. Our country is struggling, our economy is struggling, and we have a president who just acquired a new jet, for $115 million, and the average Nigerians cannot even survive, survive with below $1. So you can actually see that we're going through a lot. So the people are out there on the street to tell the government that this has to stop. Like there is hunger in the land, there is insecurity in the land, and people cannot even feed their family anymore. Food has become a luxury in our country. Price of food has skyrocketed. So food that used to be the basic things people can actually afford, like bread, like rice, have skyrocketed, and people cannot even afford it anymore. So this has led to people clamoring for change, clamoring for a system that can practically put social programs in play that can actually benefit the people. So as for the protest, we have always seen that protest is a way of telling the power structure that we are tired, that we need a change. And historically, even in America, we've seen protest of civil rights movement, which has able to attain the segregation coming into play for black people having access to education where white people are being taught. So we can actually practically see, how protests has actually changed things, going back to the days of slavery, people have to revolt against slavery, that we don't want slavery anymore. And we also feel like, the so-called power structure, the so-called, white hegemony, has not been fully what I call it, defeated. So as time goes by, they come with new kind of variants, with new kind of, I like call it policies, which still able to empower, these white, people. And also, if you tend to look the way our economy is being structured, in Africa per se, the way global capitalism is being structured is that most countries from the global south, they don't have the capacity to develop industries. So the only thing, they have for us is just for us to produce the raw materials and sell it over to the West or America or Europe. And, we find ourselves in a situation whereby, you know, um, there are few opportunities for people um, to live by, and they have fewer resources, which has been cornered by the so-called elite. And like I said, Nigeria is one of the top 10 producing oil countries in the world, and we produce crude oil for crying out loud. And the country, making so much money like that, and the people are living in poverty, that means there's something wrong with the system. A system who have tend to exploit the people's labor, who has meant to exploit the people's resources, has to go. So the people are out there that we understand the system. We understand that for our country or for any country in the African continent or in the global south, they have to do away with leaders who don't care about the welfare of the people, who only care about maximizing profit and also protecting investors' interests. Like we see as of today, oil was being discovered in Nigeria in the early 50s. And we could see multinational companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, they come into our country and destabilize our country, and they take the resources out there. So the resources being taken out of the African continent is not being put back, into social welfare, into development, which people can actually, gain from. So we can also see, the antagonistic measures being taken between the government and also the people. The government, has um, a way of to do things according to the views of IMF and also World Bank in terms of making more profit. And like you said, we black people all over the world, we've been facing all kinds of level of expression expectation, and we say this must stop. This has to go. From the 20s even up to now, we have issues of segregation, like I said earlier, even of civil rights movement, where leaders like Malcolm X, leaders like Paul Robson, leaders like Martin Luther King, came out to stand on the side of the people. Like things has to change. The conditions, that have hindered the black man, of becoming who he wants to be, has to go. So that is still the kind of conditioning that we find ourselves here in Nigeria and also in Africa, whereby we are being constrained. And things has to change. People wants to get themselves free. People wants to live in a society whereby they can easily attain, whatever they want to attain. They can easily aspire to be what they want to aspire to be. They can even put back, to their society and see, the black man all over the world being respected the way the Chinese is being respected today. If the Chinese didn't go back home and develop their country, they won't be respected all over the world now. The
Right.
Chinese is almost producing almost what half of the world is consuming. Likewise, Africa has the manpower, Africa has the resources. So it's time for us to be able to think among ourselves that like we have to put our continent, at the forefront, of developing our continent. And when we develop our continent, then we can actually sees that black people are not that dormant, black people are not second-class citizens. Black people have a lot to offer, the civilization and the development of African society and the world at large.
Yeah, a few things that you noted, especially about why the protests are happening, the conditions of the food prices raising, the crude oil raising. Those are some similarities that I was noting here. The price of food here has skyrocketed. The price of gas and oil has skyrocketed. But I'm interested, how are the people organizing against those policies in Nigeria? I know you said about the mobilization, but just in addition to the protests, what is being done to build consciousness towards anti-imperialism, and even what you were speaking of about sort of a well-united socialist Africa kind of concept of Africa regaining, or the continent regaining, its own power and strength. So what are some takeaways that we here in the US, as we're seeing conditions that mirror that with the prices and our the conditions of working class and poor people here? What are some ways that you all are raising consciousness around these issues?
I think there's nothing big about this, and it has always been a traditional thing, to organize people within their communities, within their society, to actually clamor for the changes that they want. And we could see, at the beginning of the protests, which we gave an ultimatum to the government that within the space of 1 month, the people are going to be out on the streets, and people, individually among themselves, start organizing, placards, and also educating people, about the conditions and the way which this government is being the way this government is being able to put it, um, is being controlled, and the terrain which they work is not actually benefiting the people. So one of the major reasons I felt like knowledge is very critical in issues like this. And we've seen historically that the issue of economic condition might not necessarily push people to revolt, or might not necessarily put people the right information they need to understand the system of enslavement on them. So practically you have to put the issue of ideology into place to make people understand how the work works in general, how people can able to see the effect of imperialism in our society. The reason why the price of bread is skyrocketing is just that wheat is being bring from Russia, or probably our economy is so how will I able to put it, is an export based economy, which majority of what we consume is being shipped into this country. And whenever we have issues with dollar exchange to naira, then there's inflation in the country. So those are the kind of education we have to give to the people for them to be able to understand the system critically. If people can able to understand the system critically, then they can able to understand that this thing can actually be changed by humans. That majority of what is being happening in the country is not divinely made, or how I have to put it, or it's not actually being sent down as a plague from God or whatsoever. It's because of some people that's able to make these policies, and these policies are shrinking people's life. So we have to look towards that, human way of solving our issues, and able to understand that this and this and this and this and this are the problems that are confining us. How can we better organize, to able to, move all these conditions, away aside, for our own advancement and development to come into play. Like I said, grassroots organizing is very, very, very much important. And our for our organization, we critically understand that, there have been, I call it, a deficit of, ideological, what will I call it, clarity, in the minds of the people, and it's everywhere all over the world. As at today, we don't have brilliant minds like Malcolm, or we don't have brilliant minds like Kwame Ture, who can basically, how I call it, basically clarify things to you, and you can able to understand that there's always a power structure, in our suffering, those who have left us to suffer, and for them to just able to accrue more wealth to themselves, has to go in a society. So we understand that, we live in a class society. So that is the most important thing people have to understand, that there is a class. Then if you can able to understand that there is a class who is working in antagonistic to your own interest. So how can we able to take away that class of power and put people who are ready, to organize, towards the development of the society at large, not for their personal, and their own personal interest. Like I said, knowledge is sacrosanct almost everywhere. I want to learn from Malcolm X. I want to learn from like on Mao in China. I want to learn from Ho Chi Minh in Vietnam and all those things, and able to learn from their struggle, learn from the devices they've been able to defeat it, and able to contextualize it, on issues related to my own conditioning back home right here. So, how I call it, there's no monopoly of knowledge, or maybe there's no um, a significant way of doing some certain things. But one thing is very certain, they are, doing things scientifically, has been proven over time. And things that have been proven over time, has to be contextualized and also has to be carried out. So for me, I feel like if in Cuba they can able to defeat, the exploitative system, which was spearheaded by Batista back in those days, and the likes of Castro, can able to defeat that with the people, and able to put a system, which has able to empower people, to able to give people, what they need. You go to Cuba today, you might not be able to see, the skyscrapers, you see at the Wall Street Journal, or when you pass through Brooklyn. But when you go through Cuba, you don't see homelessness the way you see it in New York. You don't see beggars on the streets the way you see it like you know, every other places in America, or you don't see people that are junkies, around the street. You see, a community centered, system whereby people are being carried along, whereby you have access to free education. Where in Nigeria, we don't have access to free education, and we want to emulate those kind of things, being attained under a socialist country like Cuba, or somewhere else, around the world. And practically, we can even see how China has been able to, all I call it, build a new path of able to juxtapose, technology, with human resources. You can say as that today, China has one of the fastest trains, who move around the city and able to help in economic activities and stuff like that. We can see how, free schools are there, how human-centered policies have been put into place, and even how proper democracy is being done, whereby people's opinion are being carried out. We see what is happening in the US election today, whether it's Democrats or whether it's Republican. They all have the same agenda. They don't have the same agenda of bombing, Palestine. They all have the same agenda, of always putting policies that will safeguard, the ruling class, both the economic and the political class in America. So for us, we realize that our struggle has similarities, and for us, is to see how we can able to annex, among ourselves, because we are all black people, we are all oppressed people. How can we be able to learn from each other? How can we be able to, you know, um, bring ideas, which can practically develop, who we are, as a person, like what you guys are doing. You guys are actually creating an alternative, media, whereby people can actually come and learn, and get away from those garbage. They learn on Fox News, or they learn on CNN and stuff like that. So, for us, education is quite very paramount, because for us to liberate the people, we should be able to orientate them.
Yeah, there's a few takeaways from that I wanted to highlight. Primarily because when you said that, when we look at U.S. elections currently, we know that even if it's two parties, it's one sort of goal. And I just want to circle back because I'm thinking about AFRICOM, right? They both intend on expanding AFRICOM, continuing AFRICOM. I know with some of the protesters in northern Nigeria, they were seen carrying Russian flags.
Yep.
Right now, it's a whole big Russiagate thing happening in the U.S. The repression by the government of the protests have been severe, with thousands arrested and some charged with treason, insurrection, and terrorism. And then earlier in January, the head of AFRICOM met with the Nigerian military leaders to discuss, amongst other things, Nigeria's quote unquote leadership when addressing regional security. And we know that AFRICOM is big on development, leadership development, and community development, and things like that. Could you talk about Nigeria's role in the region, especially as it pertains to the alliance of Sahelian states and what they're doing in partnership with the U.S.?
Yeah, let me firstly talk about the incident of protesters bringing out the Russian flags, which for me I don't see as something new, because historically we've seen Russia back in those days, where they when they were Soviet Union, they've practically worked with clear-minded leaders like Thomas Sankara, Samara Mitchell and stuff like that, and people can actually practically see the difference of Russia and the West, or particularly America. As of today on the African continent, Russia is not trying to claim a savior, or Russia is going to be, how am I able to put it, a messiah that is going to revolutionize Africa. Russia is just trying to have like a partnership. What can we practically do to have a win and win? And if you study the role of the West, in Africa entirely from the days of slavery, it has always been about their own practical interests, with neglecting Africans, from shaping a way of human labor, from slaves from western part of Africa to the Caribbeans, and also, shipping out raw materials out of Africa, and not even caring about how we can put those raw materials into food chain production. All has been shipped out. But yeah, there's Russia. And on the cases of of Nigeria, there's this steel complaint, which was being built by the Soviet Union to refine iron ore into steel, which was a very significant thing to be able to pinpoint what Russia or Soviet Union is going to do for Nigerians. And prior to the influence of the West coming into Africa, in a neo-colonial way, with the help of Reagan and also Margaret Thatcher, bringing all kinds of neoliberal policies, whereby state-owned enterprises, have been hijacked, or probably have been put, um, have been hijacked, or probably stopped, working and all those things like that. And when people reminisce of what Russia has been able to do, to advance, industrial development in Africa, they say that they've tried most possible. They are not that, how I call it, more of like an imperialist country like US or Britain or France or whatsoever. And people have also seen recently with Hairless, in partnership with Russia, and what they've been able to achieve, in terms of security, in the ALS. We have practically sees that, even American have been indirectly, supporting terrorism, in the ALS. For instance, most during the so-called conflict of interest between Ukraine and Russia, we practically see how the US has able to donate large mass of weapons to the Ukrainians, and now the war is not as very effective the way it used to be a couple of years back. A majority of the weapons being sent to Ukraine is now being shipped back, to Sahel regions, being given um, to the terrorists, and we can practically see a government official from Ukraine coming out and say that they are in support of terrorism in a way for crying out loud. That shows how backward these Westerners are, and how backward they don't even have respect for life, respect for people of color, or black people, in general. And if you look at the terrain of the protest, people are practically saying that we want the West off our land. We want to be in partnership with the country that able um, to see a level ground of win-win thing, and practically, we've also seen, the drone base being owned by the US in Niger, wanted to be moved to the northern part of Nigeria, and some, progressive and leftist elements that actually had to clamor against this. Like, we don't want your base here, to be able to commit genocide and all those things. We don't want to be, in alliance with people being killed and all stuff like that. And also, in a way, I think that couldn't work. But The US always have an alternative. They are trying to build a new embassy, in Lagos, and that embassy is situated, near the sea. And for me, I usually believe that, that embassy practically has a small space, for US naval operations. They can probably come into the country with the submarines, and nobody knows anything, and they can practically do all kinds of espionage, which people cannot be aware of. So also part of what we believed in, as an organization, is how to clamor against US influence, and also the militarization of Africa, which is senseless. People are poor, people need basic things to be able to survive. Then all you guys think is just to come and build a drone base in Africa and all those things, and you guys are not practically helping it out to able to industrialize our country and are able to create more jobs, for people to survive, for people to be able to live from that poverty stage. So those are the kind of things we want to see a change in general, and change in our society. And Russia tends to work in alliance with that. And from me, understanding Russia, or looking at Russia foreign policies, I have not seen it a way whereby Russia is actually working in alliance, sponsoring terrorists and stuff like that. I haven't seen that. And I haven't Russia is not even an imperialist country to the extent they want to lord over your country and also lord over your resources and stuff like that. So we should be able to educate our people, to enable them to see the difference between Russia, China, and the US and the West in general, because there are practically all evidences around the world. Russia is not donating bombs, to the Israeli government. You practically see who are donating bombs to the Israeli government, committing genocide. Children are dying almost every day, in Gaza. So that is so terrifying. When we look about, the moral state, of the so-called countries that chooses to be the police of the world. Even in America, we see all kinds of things. People have been dying on a daily basis of black on black violence, guns spread all over. And there are issues of hunger, issue of people not having job, issue of student loan. Students are committing suicide because they cannot even, pay their loans anymore. So those are the critical things we should be able to look towards, not this industrial complex of militarizing the African continent. And we also see, it's the American culture. America is very like a gangster state. They just have, how I call it, bases around the whole world, as if they are running a cartel. The way
Right.
cartel has their network around the world. They have military base in Germany, military base in Japan, military base in Africa. So all that has to stop. We need a society whereby people, basic things of surviving have to be prioritized. Food has to be prioritized, and all those kind of things have to be prioritized. Not just how can you able to build a new message that can travel from here to Moscow, or travel from here from America to Moscow. All those things. We don't need all those kind of things. We need a different world entirely, where people can also live in harmony. So
I deeply, deeply appreciate you being able to stop through this morning, and talk about what's happening in Nigeria. Next month is the Black Alliance for Peace month of action against AFRICOM. So these are
yeah,
all the conversations that we want to have around what do people know about AFRICOM, but more so, do the people here understand that we are in a war that mirrors a lot what's going on in the continent. So I appreciate you coming on and speaking about what's happening in Nigeria, so that the audience and folks can get an idea that a lot of these things mirror. What we're seeing with AFRICOM is what we're seeing with the 1033 program. Just as though you talked about the wages and, I mean, the prices of food and things going up, that's what we're experiencing here. The right to movement, the police brutality, that's what we're experiencing here, right? And the difference, there is no difference in terms of it's all being manufactured by the U.S. state, whether through Comprador class. So whether it is the neocolonial governors and mayors here in this city, or it's the neocolonial presidents in Nigeria, it is all being
yeah,
carried out in that sort of way. And I think it's very important that folks begin to unpack that and really see there's a larger fight back for African people, and that once Africa is free, there goes the
yeah.
rest of the world. So is there anything else before you go that you want to leave us with? Where can people find more information about your organization? Where can people tap in?
Yeah, but I just wanted to talk more about our organization. And like you said, we've been in alliance with your organization, PAP, and we have both similarities of how we can able to develop, all of the oppressed people around the world. And for us, we've been trying to work, in able to develop, an education to be able to develop new leaders that can lead the struggle of the African people around the world. So, we happen to alliances, we are open to work with all kinds of people that has both similarities on the context of socialism, on the context of Pan-Africanism. So for anybody that wants to know more about us, can check our website, www.movementforafricanemancipation.org, or probably can check us on our major pages on Facebook, Movement for African Emancipation. And also you can check on Twitter, Arise for Freedom, and also on Instagram, Movement for African Emancipation. So you can get more information about us. We open for alliance, to work with anybody. So that's just it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank y'all. Great interview. This is the Remix Morning Show. Take a quick break, and then we're going to get back to it with Jackie Luke Mine and Erica Kings. Yo, with that said, we want to give a little love to a sister that goes by the name of Teresa Songbird. So with that said, let's go ahead and check this out right here. Let's go.
All my life I've been a N-I-G-G-A. So was my grandmama and my granddaddy. And in 9 months you can have a great grandbaby. To your list you write us off like we don't exist. We took your water hoses and your fists, brown bags full of bullets, bombs in our pulpits. You want to take my word away. When I'm a N-I-G-G-A, I'm a natural, intelligent, God-gifted African. I'm a natural, intelligent, God-gifted African.
All right, there it is. Teresa Songbird. Go check her out on Instagram. Teresa Songbird. You might have seen her perform at the Black some type of award show, but she has been doing it for a while, laying it down with poetry and singing and all that. With that said, let's go ahead and get back to the Remix Morning Crew. Now we do.
Yeah. Is that the same lady who did the Black poem or whatever? Yeah, I like her a lot.
Yeah, she's a beast. I just seen her last week. She be killing it down here. So, Jackie was here. I guess that power over there in DC or wherever, I don't know what's going on over there. A little blackout.
Because they're not a state. That's why. They got no statehood. They got no electricity.
Yeah, district. I'm still trying to understand that whole thing, but
yeah, I think Jackie's probably the best one to explain it because I don't really. I know there is a genuine fight for it, but I know there's two different ways that people feel about it. Like, what does it mean for DC to come into statehood? What does it mean for the African population? Because I'm also looking at it for like Puerto Rico, right? Like, what does it mean for Puerto Rico? When we look at our conditions as like our colonized conditions, then what does statehood mean other than being able to participate more into it? So I've never really dug deep because I'm not a DC resident, so it doesn't really affect me.
Well, we got an expert on here.
I was saying I would love to hear you talk about DC's the struggle for statehood. Because I don't really, because I'm like, I
don't understand district. Like, what is a district? Like,
so this is the situation in DC is that we pay federal taxes, but we have no representation in Congress. Yes, we have a shadow senator, but Eleanor Holmes Norton, actually in the House, her vote doesn't count for anything. Like if there's a tie-breaking vote needed, the DC vote doesn't break a tie in Congress. DC was established as the seat of the federal government. Originally, it was not established to be a residential city. Now, that's the narrative that people use, because what's also true about the district is that it was settled by formerly enslaved people. It was built on a swamp. And all of the formerly enslaved that settled here and built up their neighborhoods and all of this kind of stuff. And if you come to DC and you see like the areas in Georgetown, Upper Northwest, the very high end, we used to live in those areas. That's where our people originally settled. And as the land was becoming more valuable, then more of our people got pushed out. So then, so there's a whole history of white supremacist governance in DC from the beginning, even though it was established to be the headquarters of the federal government. When people started living here, all they had to do was make it a state. That's all they had to do when people started, because look, when you have the agencies here, the federal agencies, and this is where the jobs are, and people were here before a lot of these agencies existed, but see, most of those people were Africans. Most of those people were the formerly enslaved and their descendants. So the white folks were like, we are not making this a state with these. No. So we're going to make them pay taxes. And we're going to continue to disenfranchise them politically, so that they have no power in this government that we are growing, that this area is the seat of government for. Okay. So this fight about statehood in DC, it is about taxation without representation, yes, but it is also about the racial politics that have always existed in this city. Before 1970, what was the first year? The first year DC residents were allowed to vote for their own mayor was in 1970, the mid 70s. I can never remember the exact year, but that was the year that the people voted for the first Black mayor of DC. And the white people have been mad ever since. They've been mad ever since. So all of the efforts to stop DC from achieving statehood are more connected to the history of racist control of DC and its mostly Black population for centuries, right? Not just years. DC been chocolate city since the beginning, pretty much. But since gentrification, and gentrification is also an effort to dilute the voting power of Black DC residents.
Mm-hmm. So Jackie, isn't it true now though that the white people are pushing for statehood?
And that's the only way it's gonna happen.
Yeah, pretty much.
That is the only way it's gonna happen when DC is no longer majority Black.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, what is the utility of it being? I mean, sure, you get the vote, but again, I'm looking at it in terms of like Puerto Rico and that push for Puerto Rico, right? It's not so much that they're concerned about us being represented, right? It's whoever gets that seat is a representative of the duopoly, right? And that is what they're trying to stack their numbers. But I don't think it necessarily has anything to do with the rights of people or them being able to be participatory citizens.
Oh no, nobody cares, because neither party gives a shit about participatory. We can see that in this. I swear to God, y'all, if y'all don't see in this election cycle that we are in right now, that W.E.B. I will never stop bringing that up. W.E.B. Du Bois was right in 1956. These two parties, and I don't care what state you're in, I don't care how many Black folks you got on your city council, I don't care. But there are Black faces of U.S. imperialism. And with the city council and the mayor we have now, just because the mayor, I don't know that DC will ever elect a non-black mayor, but that doesn't matter when the black mayor is upholding the same imperialist, capitalist, austerity policies that we see the government upholding throughout the rest of the. So this is the problem with representational politics. You know, the first black, this, that, and the third. DC has always been a black run city, right? So the only time that was not a problem was when the black person elected to run DC was doing the bidding of the white people who run the country, right? Because when Marion Barry was mayor, but well, I don't care what anybody says about that man's personal problems, you couldn't fuck with poor people in DC. When Marion Barry was mayor, he wasn't. Yeah, he did some shady stuff, but he did some shady stuff to kick some money back to the poor people in the hood. So that's why you will never see a lot of working class and poor black folks in this city say anything bad about Marion Barry, because even if he did commit some corruption or what, they were like, you know what he did with that money? He built all these senior centers that we have over here for our people. Didn't exist before Mary. He funded the summer youth employment program, where all the black kids my age were able to get a job when we were in high school. All of us, every black kid in the damn hood. So yeah, he absolutely did do some corrupt stuff.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Allegedly.
You asked who doesn't know anyone who does crack, and I was like, "Is that where we come to?
That's
that
not,
we're like all 3 degrees separated from crack?" Like,
but yeah, the fight for statehood in DC at this point, it is not. At one point, the fight for statehood was about a political representation and obviously, you know, white supremacy and self-determination for the black, you know, residents. Because I can't even call, we ain't citizens of what? Right. Residents of this. At one time when DC was chocolate city for real, yeah, that's what the struggle for statehood was about. Now that DC is more swirl city than chocolate city, no, now the fight for statehood is about white people being mad that they are being subjected to taxation without representation. And all the rest of that good stuff about justice and self-determination for the working classes and the poor. Yeah, none of that now. So now DC will get statehood.
Well, thank you for breaking that down for us, Jackie, and for all the new listeners. I know a lot of the regulars don't like when you repeat yourself or ask questions that they heard before. But I thank you for breaking it down. Once again, I like to be enlightened each and every time. And, you know, sometimes in the chat room, they be like, we heard that. Well, it's the new listeners here, so they like to hear it too. And also for the flag, a lot of people wondering why it's upside down. It's just how you're looking. Sometimes you've been trained to look at something a certain way, like read left or right. Who knows? But anyway, it still has the same meaning, red, black, and green, you know what I mean? There you go.
The man said our eyes are wrong.
I mean, you've been trained to do certain things, you know. It still has the same meaning.
His eyes see it correctly. Something wrong with us.
Is it the third eye, ear doctor?
There it is. The third eye doesn't worry about how it's placed. They get the meaning of it. I'm just saying. I've been that all day. Red, black, and green, you know what I mean? Big up to all my lover haters out there, especially A-Rob. They love to hate me. All right, we out of here. I'm out of here. Go ahead and get to the next story.
Yeah, we can.
Let's do it.
We talk about the blacks. Let's talk about the blacks running San Francisco. Many people know that I have this theory about black women politicians. They have their little pixie cuts and they bobs. That's the lock 'em up crew. The pixie cut black woman man, the one with the bob, they locking your ass up. They're like this with the cop.
Muriel Bob Bowser blocking this.
Yeah. We can keep going. Look at Keisha
London
Lansdowne.
Bob Breed.
Remember Stephanie here in Baltimore? We keep going. It's a theory.
Uh-huh.
The outlier, however, has remained London Breed because her silk presses is that's a different story. But London Breed, though, and I think because she remains an outlier, she does not get the smoke she deserves at all. London Breed has been under the radar, I think, for far too long. She is there's a person in the chat that always talks about San Francisco politics. And if you understand San Francisco politics, then you would understand Kamala Harris. London Breed is another product of San Francisco politics. So I just want to read this quickly. Mayor London Breed and the San Francisco Police Department Chief, Bill Scott, they announced new mobile cameras to continue improving public safety in San Francisco. And if you had a chance to listen to Kim and I yesterday, we talked about what this public safety word is. It's a dubious term. So San Francisco Mayor London Breed and Police Chief Bill Scott announced a new mobile security unit program today that includes the deployment of camera trailers in locations around the city for around-the-clock security monitoring. The units are being supplied by LiveView Technologies as part of the pilot program with the San Francisco Police Department. The SFPD plans to incorporate the security units with other recently adopted technology like automated license plate reader, cameras, fixed security cameras, and drones to continue driving crime down in San Francisco. While crime has been dropping significantly, 32% in 2024 in San Francisco, the SFPD is actively continuing to address ongoing challenges like drug dealing, burglaries, prostitution, and other crime. The nonviolent crimes. Okay.
Right.
These units will allow the SFPD to have a 24-hour presence in areas where they will have the maximum impact to assist in fighting and delivering crime. So, again, here's another great example of our internal colonial conditions. Because that is
occupation.
Yeah, that is occupation. That is occupation, surveillance. I mean, the driver's license plate thing, like, oh my Lord. But so London Breed, while she's doing that, the money for that came out of the housing development program money.
Really now?
Yes, because housing is a major issue in the Bay Area. It is a significant issue in San Francisco, and they took the funding, partial of the funding for housing, for affordable housing, to place into this. So we know thousands are homeless. There's about 60,000 plus units that sit empty in San Francisco alone. Yet London Breed not only refuses to house people, but threatens the lives of San Franciscans by increasing street sweeps. I know the Comrades and People's Program, they're collecting right now tents and a bunch of things. So tap into people's programs and donate if you can, because they're trying to help folks that are getting attacked by these sweeps, because they just announced a major sweep, I think 2 days ago. So constant police presence, and then utilizing conservatorship, to lock up poor people. That's what they're doing with it. So in 2021, yes. In 2021, standing in City Hall on Tuesday, so this is from an article, San Francisco Mayor London Breed, she pledged to end the, quote, reign of criminals who are destroying our city. You also see that that's a quote from London Breed in this article, right? She's steadfast on the criminalization. We're going to end it all, right? That's her motto. And so she laid out this plan to be less tolerant. And if we can think back to Kamala when about the truancy things, but then also when she mocked more schools, less jails. Right. That is the same language about being less tolerant. But of course, London Breed said being less tolerant to the bullshit because she's down, The city, so the San Francisco would be more aggressive with law enforcement. So that was in 2021. That statement was made. Since there has been more beat officers in the street, there has been more street sweeps, an increase in street sweeps. There has been, like they noted, the license plate reader, but they also have that bowler thing that NYPD has, where they can, instead of chasing you down the street, they can just tag your freaking car. And now they have introduced surveillance. The defunding after post 2020, that's all out the door. The defunding, the policing thing, that's not even an issue. That's being brought back up. And this is London Breed, but London Breed is also being supported by the new state prosecutor, Brooke. Is it Davis? I can't remember her last name, but Brooke replaced the more progressive leaning. I believe his father was part of the Weather
okay, yeah, Weather Underground, yeah.
So and he came out. He got primaried out for Brooke. Brooke is Kamala 2.0, or at least that is a legacy that she wants to follow. So her and London Breed, hand in hand, have been turning up the occupation and criminalization of San Francisco. Thank you, Brooke Jenkins. Turning up the occupation and criminalization of San Francisco and the Bay Area at large, right? And this is I guess this is what people are saying. Could be expected from San Francisco politics. This is San Francisco politics. So when you look at a London Breed or when you look at a Brooke Jenkins, you cannot separate them from the legacy of Kamala Harris. And all women of color. By the way, yeah.
but Ricky, I thought, but shouldn't the people of San Francisco be more terrified of Project 2025 than? I'm sorry.
No, and that's the thing, though. We're seeing them construct fascism. No, I'm saying we're seeing them construct fascism in real time, in front of our eyes.
Ricky. Oh, shoot. I hate time. We only got 8 minutes left, and this is a whole other conversation. This whole fascism question.
Yeah.
Why do people not understand fascism? Like why are people like, this isn't a fascist country. This isn't real fascism. I've seen fascism in Hungary and Ukraine. This isn't fascism because there aren't 50,000 jackboots on the streets. Why do people think that fascism only exists like a Hollywood movie about Nazis?
I think that there are criteria for how we even define or understand fascism that should be noted. It should be understood. But I think one of the things that people are missing, and I think which is more important of how we're understanding the conditions of the U.S. right now currently, is that liberalism fundamentally is the issue. We're fearing a fascism that may or may not already be here, that is impending. But the liberalism in this country is crafting that, of which we're fearing. When we talk about, look what happened to African Stream, the repression of opposing voices or opposition, the way that we're seeing more and more policing, cop cities across the country, right? There is, I think that fundamentally when we're looking at how things are playing out, and we have to stop and step back and say, well, all of this is happening under a Democratic Party. All of this is happening under Democratic leadership, all of which we're told that a vote for Democrats will, fend off fascism. But if you do not understand what fascism, the components of it, or what leads to it, these subtle changes of repression and silencing and over-policing and occupation that is walking us right into it, then it is going to be this sort of misdirection of what is and what isn't fascism.
Yeah, and it's interesting to be looking at what is going on right now under a Democratic administration and all of the fascist repression, because I'm sorry, silencing people for speech and associating with someone from another country, that is not just repression. That is silencing of dissent by the state, which is an aspect of fascism. So it's weird that we can have aspects of fascism that are happening right now simultaneously to some degree, but then argue that the society that's happening in is not fascist yet. And that's very weird. But it's like, okay, if that's how you feel, then that's fine. But then my question becomes, all right, so what are you doing about the elements of fascism that we are seeing? Okay, fine. You don't think it's a fascist society, but what are you doing about the elements of fascism that are happening? And too often folks are not doing anything about that because they are, sitting around trying to argue that things that are happening do not fit the textbook, whichever textbook you look at, definition of fascism, literally because, look, there are not 50,000 thugs, jackbooted thugs marching in the streets, right? It's a very weird kind of conversation. But it is a conversation that is kind of popping up now, and it's very frustrating to have to always kind of have these. I kind of like. I don't know that there's a utility for endlessly engaging in these debates about Afro-pessimism. I don't know that there's so much of a utility about engaging in endless debates about what fascism is or is not if there's not any real organization or resistance to the elements of fascism that are actually happening right now. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Are you sure? Don't humor me. Don't criticize me.
I mean, everything you do makes sense, Jackie. What's going on? Is it raining, thunderstorm up that way or something? Because
yeah. There's there was a transformer blew near here. I don't know why. It's not hot. It's just a little humid. But yeah, transformer blew, and then it's been rainy the past couple of days. I don't know.
Okay, because I see Ricky just froze and popped away. So
well, it's also the feds.
There it is.
It's also.
Well, we had another great show. What you got coming up this Friday? Anything?
I am going to try to have my comrade from the Black Liberation Party down in Tampa, who attended the Uhuru 3 trial, on to talk about that trial, what he saw during the proceedings that might give a little bit of insight into that ridiculous verdict, that split verdict that was handed down in that court, in that trial. And I'm also going to try to have some folks on to talk about a couple of issues that have happened here in DC, in the DC area, one being the shooting death by the DC police of Justin Robinson this week. There was a big vigil held at 7th District Police Department here in Southeast last night, and to talk about, oh my gosh, what was the other thing? It just went right out of my head.
Happens to me all the time. It's like when you walk in the other room and you be like, why did I come in here?
Do not know. But we are also on the campaign. We're also doing some serious grassroots, on the ground, from the ground up organizing with some people it's very, very exciting. So I'm going to have some content for that. That might be Patreon content. I think it will be. So yeah, lots of good stuff I'm trying to get done, and hopefully I'll be able to do it from the road, because I'm on the way to the West Coast tomorrow.
All right. Well, we will pray for your safe travels and everything, and keep us informed of this, that, and the third. And we're going to be back here tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And you can also catch me and Kim tomorrow at 11 for Classical Breakdown. I think we're going to do the Jackson 5. So let's represent Tito. Or Toronto.
Can you feel it?
Oh, that's one of the best songs ever right there. I'll tell you. Man, what? Doom, 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 doom. Anyway. Anyway, that's it for the day, y'all. Have a great week, great weekend. We'll see you tomorrow. And that's what it is. All right. Peace out, y'all. Fly.